Old Gold Club. I'm Mikey Burrows. As ever, alongside me is Chris Iwelumo. And this episode, we're joined by a man who made 127 appearances across 6 years, scoring 24 goals. Welcome to the Old Gold Club, Michael Kightly.
Right, thanks for having me.
Welcome back to Molyneux. I know you've been back with me to do games and stuff, but is it weird walking back into a place that I know has a real special place in your heart?
Yeah, it is. I think even just driving past the ground, just brings back so many good memories.
Because you loved it here.
Yeah, I loved it, yeah. It was the best part of my career by far, easily.
You said that it made you fall back in love with football. Didn't it give you that kind of fire in your belly? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think obviously because when I came, I didn't have any expectation on myself. No one knew me. And I had a good manager who came in and just said, if you do the business in training and in games, you'll play. And there was no egos in that dressing room. And that was a massive part of why I did well. I think I came in and just hit the ground running. And every time I just played for this club, I had that fire in my belly that I wanted to do well for the club. Not just for myself, which I found it later on in my career that I started playing football for myself. And that's when I think it started going downhill, where I felt here I was playing for the manager, I was playing for the boys, and I was playing for the fans. And I think that's the only time in my whole career that I've ever had that.
Were you ever nervous about making that jump up? Because obviously you'd had a little taste of the Football League, but having made your name with Grays, to get the opportunity to not just go to a Football League club, but a big club in the Championship, First Division, who are looking to get up as well. That's a big jump.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was nervous in my debut because that was against Southend away, and that was the club that released me. And I really wanted to do well in that game because I wanted to prove to them that they'd made a mistake. So I was really nervous in that game, but only because I wanted to prove to them that they'd made a mistake. And then I think my second game was away at QPR, the game that I scored in. And no, I wasn't nervous at all. I was just looking forward to playing and doing the best that I could do for the club. And I think it helped that we had a good dressing room and a good manager. We didn't have any, as I said, any egos, any people that were sort of put extra pressure on you. And I think actually that season we wasn't tipped to do very well.
Well, what was that dressing room like? Because, it's about 2 years before he arrives. And that group, as you say, was kind of still in transition a bit?
Yeah, it was, yeah. We had, Gary Breen, who had a lot of experience, and he was brilliant. I got on really well with him, and I found that I learnt a lot off of him. Then obviously Jody Craddock and people like that. Carl Emery was there then, and it was a great dressing room. But we just didn't quite have the quality that we had 2 years later, obviously, to get promoted.
You know, when you actually you broke in, you hit the floor running. Did you actually then set yourself targets, because there was a lot of responsibility on you as well as a player?
No, I didn't. It was weird. It's it's when you're playing well, when you're young, it's like yourself. You just go out and do it, don't you? You don't even think. And I remember because I signed in November on loan, view to a permanent. I had some interest from other clubs, and sort of Mick McCarthy was sort of like laughing, are you going to leave? And I didn't even think about leaving. I was just enjoying my time here. I've obviously moved up from Essex. I didn't know anyone. Stayed local to the training ground, and I just loved every minute of it.
How important was Mick, the gaffer, to you coming?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, I remember when I drove up here, I had Forest that I could have gone to as well, and as soon as I met Mick, I thought there's no point in me going to Forest. Obviously, it's just the way he was, the way he conducted himself, the way he made me feel wanted. Even though that I knew that I was a nobody, he made me feel like I was special and that he really wanted me here. And as I said, I didn't even bother going to Forest. And what a massive club Forest is, and for me to just go, nah. Yeah. I wasn't even thinking, maybe Forest could offer me a bit more money. I wasn't even thinking that. I just, as soon as I got up here, I knew that I wanted to sign.
Because I was looking through the squad when you first arrived, and it's massive. Like, because the turnaround of players that we were kind of going through at that period, and you're synonymous with you and Matt Jarvis as the wingers, and yet obviously Jarvo wasn't here at that time.
No.
So, I mean, Stephen Ward, I guess, would have played some games on the wing, and Rowan Ricketts.
Wardy was actually a forward then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wardy was a striker. He was playing with Keogh up front. I think it was wide, me and Mackindo. I can't believe.
Rowan Ricketts would have played kind of in a 10 sometimes.
He played wide as well. He was a character. Yeah, he used to come in with his slippers on. Never seen anything like him. What a guy.
But like the team very quickly began to change, and that season, when we had Matt Murray in, we talked a lot about it. The fact that he kind of feels if he'd have been fit, you'd have beaten Albion in that playoffs.
Yeah, Matty was massive for us, and that was when Wayne Hennessy got his chance. But yeah, we obviously got in the playoffs and lost to West Brom that year, and we just didn't have the quality that West Brom were better than us, which is hard to take. But we had an unbelievable season. I think we finished third or fourth that year. After expectations were to get relegated, I think. So it was a great year.
Do you think it would have been too early for that group of players? Had you got promoted? Yeah,
definitely. But what it did do, the following season, it brought expectation because we did well. The following season, we was expected to do well, and I think I picked up an injury that year and missed a lot of football. And I think we missed out on the playoffs by like 1 goal or something stupid.
So on that then, why was there no expectation the following year? You know, the season that we did actually go up and win promotion as champions.
You don't think there was?
No, I never felt it. I felt that you were close when I came in. Obviously, Mick McCarthy, just speaking to him all summer, I knew exactly what he was. I wanted to play for him. I think within us, there was a group, but there wasn't an expectation, even though, again, Mick McCarthy shown that he recruited the right, I guess, the right characters, the right, to kind of that, to strengthen the weaknesses that was in the squad from the season before. Why wasn't the expectation from everyone else?
I think because obviously he didn't spend silly amounts of money. Like he bought players in on good buys. Like he bought yourself in, and he didn't spend 5-10 million on you. And he did that with a few. And I felt like he just bridged the gap from not being quite good enough with the quality. And I noticed in that pre-season that I just felt we've got the quality now. And I remember doing a running session, and we were fit as well. We were a fit bunch. And I remember doing a running session up near the school, where it was obviously not there anymore. And I just thought, we look good. And I think did we go 8 games on the spin, winning, start of the season?
And then we drew, and then we went and won
8
another
games
7.
again.
And then,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, so we had an unbelievable start. And then I think after we had that start, everyone just thought, wow, these are going to be there.
It kind of came together for you as well, because you mentioned you had a bit of injury issues, which we'll come onto, I guess, coming back. But that season, you actually made 41 appearances.
Yeah, I played a lot of games that season.
But you even had an injury issue towards the end of it, but it shows how much you were involved.
Yeah, well, there's a story about that injury. And sometimes when Wolves fans talk to me and say about injuries and that injury that I got at the end of that season, I broke my metatarsal, and I broke that in a reserve game. And look, I loved Mick McCarthy. He was one of the best managers that I've ever played for. But it was 6 games before the end of the season. I think I just scored away at Forest. And I was going away with the England under-21s. And Mick I had a chat with Mick, and he sort of said, he didn't say pull out, but he sort of said, we've got big 6 games coming up. What's your thoughts on just having a rest for a couple of weeks because of the international break? And I said, I totally agree. I am tired. I'll ring Stuart Pearce and I'll pull out. I think it's important for Wolves as a club for me to be fit and raring to go for the last 6 games. And then he played me in a reserve game, only 45 minutes, and I broke my metatarsal in it. So fans don't see that. For me, I could have gone away with England and I could have played 2 games for England and got 2 more caps. And not broke my metatarsal. For me, I remember coming in, crying my eyes out. I went into the doc's office. He scanned me straight away, and there was a break. And I cried my eyes out because I knew that I was going to miss the best part of my career, really. And then after that, I couldn't get back fit. I had my hip done at the same time as I had my foot done because I had a problem in my hip, so we thought it was right to do that while I was out. And then after that, I couldn't get back. I think because I had my left foot done and my right hip done, I was obviously out. And just my knees, then I came back and my knees were chronic tendonitis. So
you had an ankle problem as well, didn't you, for a bit?
Well, that's when I came back. I came back and I think I got done by Joe Hart and done my ankle. But I was very unlucky with my injuries. And I was out for a long, long time. And it hurts me because when you said about how many games I played for Wolves in the amount of time I was here, I should have played a lot more. And I found it very difficult, obviously being injured.
You said that you came in, you knew straight away, you were in tears, the doctor. Is that a conversation then that you had with the gaffer in private then, or is that something that you felt that the frustration that you needed to get that out, or you...
No, I've not really spoken about that until now.
That's just me hearing it for the first time when I was there. I was injured already. I think I'd just dislocated my knee with that challenge just before. So
I never really spoke about it, and I felt like I sort of owed Mick that, not to come out and talk about that, because at the end of the day, he took me from non-league and he turned me into the player that I was, and I was absolutely gutted, and so was he. He was gutted, and he probably knew that he probably wouldn't have made that decision again to play me. I think we played Telford at the training ground, and I was only playing 45 minutes. But I always look at managers and think, why have you done that? Why do you make that decision? And I get why he was doing it, because we'd had a 2-week break. He just wanted to keep my fitness topped up. Didn't want me to play 90 minutes, but just wanted to top me up with 45. But I just felt like there was no point. And how I broke my foot was just... I just jumped over the keeper. There was no big, massive challenge. It was just, boom, I broke my metatarsal. And then I knew that I was out for the last 6 games. And I remember celebrating at the end of the season with a boot on. And I felt like I wasn't part of it. And as you said, I'd made 41 appearances. I think I scored 8 goals that season. Yeah. And I think I got most assists in the league and got in team of the year. And I actually felt that I hadn't helped the boys. It was really weird feeling.
No, I was the exact same. Yeah. You know, I think not the boot on, 7 games to go. Even the games that the boys are doing well in school, you just don't feel part of that group, and that's one of the things I don't think people actually understand when you're injured. The worst thing for any footballer is to be injured, to watch the team in that at the Compton as well. When you're looking out the windows and you see them training, it is devastating. It is depressing, devastating. So, no, but you were very much a massive part of that. The goals that you brought, the goals that you created. You know what I mean? Nottingham Forest, unbelievable.
That's the best game ever in my career, that game.
You're unbelievable.
We all just clicked that day, and we came in. I remember we came in, and I think we was 4-0 up at half time, and we came in and we all just looked at each other and just started laughing. It's like, Jesus, what's just happened there?
Do you remember where we were going?
Where we were going?
Not remember where we went. It was already planned.
Were we out in Birmingham?
No, we're going to Scotland to watch before this match. So we knew that we had to win, because obviously the gaffer knew that there's about 6 of us going up to watch the Old Firm on the Sunday.
Oh yeah.
And we're 4-0 up at half time, so no wonder we just started laughing. Big Matt Murray flew up in the private plane, didn't we?
Yeah, no, obviously just that game just sticks out for me. But that season by far is the best season that I've had in football, and it's one that will stay in my memories forever. And just what a group we had. What a group of lads.
Do you see it then as a little bit of like a sliding doors moment, that if you hadn't have played in that game, you wouldn't have broken your foot and you might not have had the injury problems that you had after that? Yeah,
I do think that. I think I had a hip problem that I was playing on and that wasn't serious. I could carry on playing, that probably needed fixing, but I could have had that fixed in the off-season. But my issues of injuries, the main issues that I had was knees. And that was tendonitis, is what Owen Hargreaves had to retire with. And I generally thought I wasn't going to get back fit. So I'd worked so hard to get into the Premier League, and I couldn't play in the Premier League. I couldn't even walk up and down stairs. I've been to see every single specialist going. And I think it was just where I'd just been knocked out with breaking my foot and my hip. I was obviously so out of sync that my knees were just,
Yeah.
I was obviously just walking completely different, and my knees just took everything. And I just couldn't get back fit, and it became so frustrating. I think if I'd broken my leg, I could have dealt with that because I knew that my bone was going to heal, and I knew I could count down the days when I was going to be fit. I just didn't know when I was going to be fit, and I found that really hard mentally.
How did you cope? Because you've been through similar periods in your career.
Yeah, I think when I broke my foot, I think it was 4 months without football, no matter what physical condition that you're in, and I was like the fittest that I've ever been in my career. But it was a longer period for you, wasn't it? It was like I never knew it was as dark as that for you at the time because you weren't that kind of person.
No.
You'd come in, you'd still light up the room. But when you were on your own, that must have been like devastating.
Well, that's the thing with the person that I was in the dressing room. I was a laugher and a joker like yourself. Like we used to, we have a laugh and that. And I used to love coming into work every day. I used to look forward to coming into work. But I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel with that injury. And I found that really hard. I was working every day, and this is where I think the mental side is very tough because obviously if you're injured, you go into the physio, and the physio wants you to get fit, and he needs to be seen to be getting you fit. So he starts working you. But yet, if you're not getting any better, and you're coming in first in, last out every day, and you're doing that every single day, and you're not getting any down days, any time to sort of be away from the club, it becomes really hard mentally. And I look back now, and I definitely suffered depression through that time. But if you'd have said to me at that time, Kites, I think you're depressed, I'd have said, no, I'm all right. And I'd have had this sort of like front on that I was happy, but then I'd go home and I'd lock myself away. I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. And I was very, very depressed. And I only know that now. So it was a tough time.
How did you get through it then? How did you come out the other side?
I had so many different injections, different places, because it was one of those injuries where it was sort of like I was kind of like the first. Me and Hargreaves were sort of the first players to have it that bad. So no one really knew how to tackle the injury. And I was going to Barcelona to have injections, and I was going all over the place to have injections, and none of them were working. And in the end, I had it operated on in Sweden. And that guy, I think his name is Hakan Halfredsson. He saved my career. I remember when he fixed me, and I just knew that it was gone. The pain was gone. I was literally wanting to hug him, and just I sent him one of my shirts, and on that shirt I just said, "You saved my career." And so when that pain went, it was just such a relief. And now, because of those experiences, when I've met a player now that's had tendonitis, I draw to him and I help him.
Yeah.
And there's been so many players that I've seen that have had the same problem as me. I help them mentally because I've been through it. I sit there and I talk to them and I say, I know what you're going through, and then I tell them where to go with their treatments and things that they can do to help themselves.
So after all that dark period, tell us about your Premier League debut then? What about when that game came, you got the chance to play at that level?
But you know what? I can't even remember my Premier League debut. But I remember Mick McCarthy saying to me, so I've been out for what? I don't know how long. I've been out a season and a half. 16
months, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember him saying to me, pulling me in, I'm going to start you tomorrow. Just keep it simple. You're not got to please everyone. You're not got to take everyone on. And I did that, and I think we lost. And I went home that night just thinking that was pointless. Like, that's not how I play. And then on the Monday morning, I remember having a chat with him, and he basically said that you need to go out and play some games because I was nowhere near it. And I agreed with him, and that's when I went to Watford. And that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I think that sort of saved my career a little bit, that little spell at Watford.
Just to get match fitness, but the whole point of that is to go out, get yourself fit. Because Mick,
you was at Watford, weren't you?
Yeah, you know what I mean, exactly. But they know the potential, they know how good you are, and it is the only way that you can get to that level again is going out and getting the minutes. You know what I mean? But like you say, it was such an important part of your career, that wasn't it? Yeah,
it was massive. I think obviously when you've been out that period of time, you need a good few games to get back into it. You probably need 10 games on the spin to. Yeah. It's no good you coming in playing a game and then you're being, dropped for a game and then playing 10, 15 minutes here and then playing a reserve game. It's just not what you need. You need constant games. And I went to Watford under a great manager in Dyche, Sean Dyche, and obviously played with yourself there. Yeah. And I had a great time there. And then obviously I came back, and then I think I scored
3 goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I scored. I don't know if it was my first game back.
Third game. So you came back in and featured in the FA Cup 0-0 with Blues, then 1-1 with Spurs, and then you scored in the 3-2 defeat to Villa.
And that goal, the emotions that came out of me in that goal, never felt anything like it in my life. That was just, that was one of the best parts of my career, that goal.
Amazing for you to come back, but obviously the club still went down. Talk to us about the group of players, or were you just mainly in that zone, focused on, like you say, I know you played for Wolves, but you said about there came a point where you had to just think about yourself and play for yourself and get through the minutes for yourself. So when what went wrong for that team to go down when it did?
I think obviously confidence was low. Obviously I'd been at Watford, so I'd sort of found a new lease of life at Watford, and we did pretty well at Watford and Dyche.
Yep.
And so when I came back, I had sort of that bounce about me to come back and do well, but the team was struggling, and confidence was really low, and I just felt I don't think we could have been saved by anyone, and obviously Mick took the brunt of that, and then when he did, and they chose to go down, the road in Stolbach, and I just felt, for me, I felt obviously I've missed a lot of Premier League football, and I thought it was time for me to leave. I didn't want to leave. Wolves is the only club that I've cried at when I've left. Every other club that I've played for, I've never cried. I've never thought, I'm going to miss it. Wolves was the only club that I had that feeling for. But it was just something that I felt like I had to do. I'd spoken to Solbakken, and he didn't really fill me with sort of confidence about where he was going with the club. He didn't really say to me, look, here's a 5-year contract, like, we want you to sign. There it is in black and white. So it wasn't even like I got offered a new deal. And I just felt I had an opportunity to go to Stoke, and I just felt it was the right decision. And one that I didn't take, lightly. But obviously I took a little bit of stick for it.
Yeah, because did you reject a contract?
No.
Because that's what came out at the time.
No, I didn't reject a contract. There was no contract put in front of me. To be fair, Jez did say to me, will you sign a new contract? But the manager, I remember having a conversation with the manager in Dublin, and he sort of said, well, what's happening? Are you going to go or are you going to stay? Because if you're going to go, I've got a replacement in for you. He didn't sort of say, like, I really want you to stay and I think we can build and we can get promoted again and this and that. He didn't fill me with confidence the way he wanted to play. I was thinking, I'm not sure about that in the Championship, if I'm honest. Obviously, he'd been promoted before from the Championship, so I thought we had that experience of knowing what the Championship's like. I wasn't sure he knew what it was like. And I just see a transition in the club, and I just thought it was time for me to leave. And and as I said, I was gutted about it. And also having that opportunity to play in the Premier League, because I'd missed so much football of that, playing in the Premier League. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to play in the Premier League. And I know people say, oh, we stuck by you was injured. And I get all that. I get that. But also, I got injured playing for the reserves against, I think it was Telford or someone like that. And, I didn't choose to play in that game. I got injured in that game. I could have been playing for my country. So there's always two sides of every story.
Yeah.
I love Wolves to bits, and I still do. And I scored against them, a couple of years ago for Burton. And I would not celebrate. And there's no other club that I would do that for.
You said that you got stick. So is that something that you just kept the head down and just accepted it, or?
Yeah, just accepted it because I've got so much respect for the club and the fans. The way the fans took to me in my first few years, and the way they were with me when I was injured, I've got nothing but bad things to say, good things to say about the club and the fans. So I took that on the chin, and it did hurt when I played against Wolves and I got booed and this and called that, and I wasn't really one for social media, and I'm still not. But I would look at certain things and I'd see that fans are saying this and that, and it hurt. It hurt. But if it was any other club, if Stoke fans were saying that about me, I wouldn't be too bothered, to be honest. But coming from Wolves fans, it hurt me.
It's interesting, I say, and I think maybe part of it, Kites, was because there's a group of you that kind of left around the same time, and it felt from the fans' point of view that people were jumping ship almost when you were all needed. Did you know it was going to continue to get worse? Did you think it would continue to go the way it did?
I didn't know it was going to go as bad as it went, because obviously it got relegated that season again. I just couldn't see them getting promoted again. And also before, I remember we'd signed, just before Mick left, we'd signed some players on some big money as well, who didn't really know the identity of the club. I felt like I knew the identity of the club, and that was why I was quite vocal in the dressing room. I remember you mentioning that before. Yeah. Because I'd been there from the start, and I sort of knew the identity of how our squad was and what we were about and what the fans demanded. I felt like a level of like it was my place to say to someone if they weren't doing it or they weren't being professional or not working hard enough, to say it. And we had some players come in that were on big money that Mick had signed that didn't really work for the club. And I felt a little bit, I looked at that and thought, well, I wouldn't have minded if that had gone to Looms or to Carl Emery or to Keogh, Vokes, or, the lads that were the core lads that had done it. And I had a bit of I was resenting that a little bit about the lads that came in that had not done well for the club.
Because we were talking obviously beforehand about the fact that we had Roger Johnson in on this podcast, and he kind of talked obviously very honestly about the situation when he was made captain, and we've had Carl Henry in, we've had a number of people in. I know that you didn't necessarily agree with the decision to take the armband off Carl.
No, I didn't like that decision at all. I didn't see the point of it. As I said, Mick McCarthy's a great manager and he'd done some great things, but he also made some mistakes, and I think he'd probably hold his hands up now and say that he did. Obviously, Rog was doing really well at Birmingham and was a good signing for us at the time. I just didn't feel like he needed that extra pressure. He came in on a lot of money, he'd been bought for a lot of money. And for me, Carl was probably the best captain that I'd played for. He was the players' captain, and I didn't like that.
How did that? So you didn't like it. How did that affect the dressing room? That decision, because it's just about speaking honestly, because you were right there, weren't you?
Yeah, it affected it massively, I thought, because I felt that team that got promoted, we'd been brewing for a couple of years and we'd been building together, got promoted. And then I get that we've got to then bridge the gap to the Premier League, and then we've got to try and stay in the Premier League, but I just felt that it wasn't needed. I felt Carl was a very, very good captain. There was just no reason for it, and I think a lot of the lads felt the same. So then, almost without being Roger's fault, the lads sort of didn't really take to Rog because they thought, "Who's this guy coming in?"
What's loyalty to Carl as well? Isn't
it? Exactly. So it was so hard for Rog to come in, and then his form wasn't that great to start because obviously he would have had a lot of pressure, and I felt a little bit sorry for Rog, to be honest, because although I didn't agree with a few things that he did and how he was a little bit, he's actually a good guy, Rog, and I've seen Rog recently, and he's an honest guy, and he came in and he wanted to do well for the club, but it just didn't work out.
So the big question, if you had the opportunity again, would you have still left or would you have stayed?
I would have liked to have seen what happened if I'd have stayed.
Do you think that's down to the manager? Like saying to you, you know what, you're in my plans, this is the way that I'm going to play. He straight away, Solbakken came and he was very negative about English football. Well, I'm afraid you're playing, and this is English football. You have to do what it takes. The possession game that never really created a lot.
Do you remember his first meeting?
I wasn't there. I wasn't
Oh,
here,
you wasn't
but
there.
I've heard from the outside. I've read a little bit, and it's interesting. So, no, tell us about the first.
His first meeting was at the end of the season. Obviously, it'd been announced that he was the manager for the following season. So this is before we go on our holidays. And he came in, and none of us knew who he was. We were sort of Googling him, seeing who he was. But we were good lads. We were obviously going to give him a fair crack of the whip. And he's come in and he's gone, I know none of you know who I am, but I don't know who any of you are. But hopefully we'll get to know each other. And I just thought, oh no. Like, that is not what I wanted to hear. You know, I'd just been relegated from the Premier League after missing so much Premier League football. I wanted to get back in the Premier League, and I just thought, alarm bells just rang for me, and I just thought, I went away that summer, went on holiday, and I just thought, I think it's time for me to leave. And I came back pre-season, and I came back fit, to be fair. I remember, because I was so eager to do well. And I started pre-season, and I felt good. We played a game over in Ireland, and I think I scored a couple, and I felt sharp. And he didn't then say to me, look, please sign this contract. You're a big part for us. You're going to help us get back to where we want to get. You've been here a long time. You can help the dressing room. He didn't give me that sort of feeling that I needed at that time, and that is why I chose to leave. But I do look back and think, what if I'd have stayed? But would he have gave me the responsibility to try and help that squad stay together in the way that we were as a team? You know, he brought some players in that I'm not sure connected with the other lads. I think it was that squad that was so connected and so driven by each other sort of fell away within the dressing room. Not just the lads that left, but the lads that were still there, and then the lads that came in. Clicks started happening, and yeah, that's why I believe then they ended up getting relegated again.
It's been fascinating to have you in. Thank you very much for your time. There'll be more that we've got to discuss with you. They'll be available as ever on our extended podcast, which is available to download from all the usual places. Remember, Old Gold Club is powered by Blythe Group this season. Make sure to check them out as well, and that full podcast. Thanks for watching.